Hi, it's Penny here. Welcome to another reading vlog. This week I've got a couple of fantasy books that I'm going to be reading. Firstly, I have The Broken Kingdoms, which is the second book in the Inheritance Trilogy by N.K. Jemisin. So the first book was about this young woman who goes to this kingdom where they have this relation to this sky god, and there was also a bit of a conflict between the different gods that she ended up getting involved in that kind of came to a big climax at the end of the book. This book I think is going to be following a different character. So far I've actually just read the prologue. So the prologue, we were following this young, I think he's blind, boy who can see magic though, and then some kind of like event happened that I think was actually the end of the first book, and that had some big consequences. It seems like in the first chapter, maybe I read the first page of the first chapter, I think then we've gone forward 10 more years and he's now working in a market. I assume he's going to end up meeting one of these gods and something will happen. It seems as well like they live in a city that's like a big giant tree, but as I said, I'm not far in, so I'll read some more and then I'll actually know what I'm talking about. The other thing I've been reading is Heir of Novron, but I have been reading this via audiobook, and I think I'm 20% of the way in. But the way that these books work is that initially Michael J. Sullivan wrote them as 6 books and then they published them as 3. So even though this is the third book, it's also kind of book 5 and book 6. So if I'm 20% of the way in, I'm like nearly halfway through the first book. So the original setup for this book series is that we're following Royce and Hadrian, who are these thieves. However, they keep getting pulled into like these political and magical conspiracy things that are going on. So there's this group that's kind of trying to find the heir of some empire to like put them back in charge, but actually use them as a puppet while they take charge. And a lot of our main characters are actually trying to find the real heir and maybe do something with them. There's some weird magical stuff going on as well. There's still a lot of mysteries. At this point, supposedly we know who the heir is, but I'm still not sure I believe. Maybe I've just read too many books that are tricksy and always lying to me, but I'm suspicious. We do also at this point have some other characters that we're following, not just Royce and Hadrian, and to be honest, I like the other characters probably the most. I especially like the Princess Arista, although at the moment she's not doing too well. Hopefully she'll get to be a bit more badass soon. Anyway, probably tomorrow I will go on a run and continue this audiobook. And other than that, I'm just like trying to catch up on somehow being behind on everything, even though it doesn't really matter. Being behind is fine. Hello, so it is so hot. I'm about to try and film a video, my TBR actually, for next month, this month. I don't know when this video is going up. Oh, I think the TBR will be out before this vlog. Anyway, it's so hot, I think I might die, so that's great. But I did want to update you on my reading. So for The Broken Kingdoms, I am on page 134, so I've read 5 chapters. And I kind of have mixed feelings about this. I do think I like this better than the first book in the trilogy. So we're following a whole new character. Actually, I think in my intro to this blog, I said it was this blind boy. It's a girl. I don't know why I thought it was a guy. Actually, I know why. It's because I was expecting to be following a certain male character in this book, and he is in this book, but that's not the main character. The main character is this blind woman, and she's blind, so she can't see, but she can see magic, and she's kind of ended up with a romantic relationship with one of these godlings. So in this world, initially there were 3 gods. One of the gods killed another one, and then the third one was enslaved by these, well, he was given as a slave to these people. Like, quite a lot of stuff happened with that in the first book, and now the fallout is happening, but our main character isn't really aware of it. But then there are also what they kind of refer to as godlings, which are like the children of these 3 main gods. And she's ended up kind of having a romantic relationship with one, and then there's also this other god kind of staying with her. She kind of just found him like in the muck bin, and every time he dies, he just comes back to life. So even something just happened where he got quite injured and then another god just killed him so that he would come back to life and be healed as like a quicker way of dealing with that rather than having to like heal slowly. But yeah, our main character is very confused because they don't know a lot of what's going on. But of course, as the reader, assuming you've read the first book, which you should, you know a lot more about what's going on with the gods than she does. So she's just kind of really lost trying to figure out what's going on with this god politics that's going on. But there has also been some godlings being killed, and that's a bit of a murder mystery, which she's somewhat involved in. But it's kind of like all the plot stuff that's happening, she's mostly just kind of on the peripheral of it, like happens to be around when things are happening, happens to know people. But at this point, at least, she's not really that involved. It's having an impact on her life. And so like I'm engaged in the story from like more in like a character focused way, interested in the effect it's having in her life. But because I'm a more plot-based reader, from a plot perspective, it's really frustrating because whatever plot is happening, she doesn't really understand and you have to try and figure it out. Also, I think it's a thing with N.K. Jemisin that sometimes the way she writes can be quite confusing. At the end of the last chapter, our main character had a conversation with someone. And it's heavily implied who it is. I think I know who it is. Do I know what's going on or do I not know what's going on? So it's a little bit confusing, and I wish sometimes, like, I think it's just that she gets so much into like building the atmosphere that she forgets that some of us need some concrete facts to like know what's going on. Anyway, I still am enjoying this and I will continue that. I already feel like I'm dying of the heat. The other thing I've been reading is the Heir of Novron. So I am actually only 35% of the way through the audiobook. However, I'm nearly at the end of the 5th book, like 30 minutes from the end. Sometimes it's really annoying because I listen to audiobooks on my run and then I get back from my run at a really inconvenient time, but then it's not convenient to keep listening to the audiobook because I come home and have other things to do. So like I actually got home right in the middle of this very intense emotional scene and I didn't want to stop listening, but also I had to stop listening. So I kind of am looking forward to going back to that and finding out what's going on with that when I get some more audiobook time. There's definitely a lot of things in that 5th book got wrapped up, but then a lot of stuff got set up for that final book. And I can just tell the final book is going to be intense, very emotional. Hopefully we'll learn lots of stuff because there's so many things going on. It's so well done how it's kind of like at this point, everything that's been set up in the earlier books is starting to come together and it's very satisfying seeing the way that that's happening. So maybe I'll go for a run tomorrow. I don't know. If it's this hot, maybe I don't even want to, but I probably should. Hello, I decided to try filming in this part of the room for a change, and I think I've picked the perfectly wrong time of the day for it because there's like bright sun here and then shadow over here. Anyway, I'll work that out at some point, I guess. So in terms of reading, I'm now just over halfway through actually both of the things that I'm reading. For the Broken Kingdoms, I will admit, some exciting things just happened that made me excited to see what's going to happen with it. And it was kind of like a bit of a reveal that I can now see. There was a hint of something earlier and I was like trying to work it out and I couldn't quite figure out what it was hinting at. And now I'm like, oh, that's what it was hinting at. Sorry, I'll probably blind you if I stick this in the sun. I gotta hold it back here. I don't know. This isn't the best setup, but it is nice. I've got lovely warm sun on my legs, but my face gets to be in the cool. Anyway, what I'm not liking about this book is a lot of it is just a lot of dialogue and different characters talking about like their understanding of the gods, and everyone's wrong in their understanding because they're missing a bunch of information, and of course inserting their own motivations and desires. And like the main character's kind of found herself in a bit of a cult. It's weird to think about cults when the cults are following the gods. The gods they're following are real, but what they think the gods want isn't necessarily what the gods actually want. And I mean, I can't spoil it, but some of what's going on within the cult that they don't realize is going on is, and of course then my battery died. It's sun. What was I saying? Something about the cult. Oh no, I've forgotten. Anyway, there's some interesting ideas in this, but I feel like the actual execution is a little bit off. I'm also not sure how I feel about like the representation of blindness in this book. Sometimes it feels like N.K. Jemisin is trying to like portray what it's like to be blind, and then other times it's like she's almost forgotten that she's blind, although because she has this little additional like magical aspect to what she can see, like she can see magic, then maybe sometimes that's what's going on. I don't know. I don't necessarily know that I'm the right one to judge the representation, but like I don't know that it's that great. But I am liking a lot of the ideas around the gods in this. The other thing that I have been reading is Heir of Novron. I'm now 56% of the way in, I think. Did I get that number right? 58%. What's happened is because kind of now we're in this last book, and while I was expecting the whole last book to be quite intense, instead the pacing and kind of the intensity came back down after the end of that fifth book, or the fifth part, I guess you could say it that way. So like everything got very intense and dramatic and a lot was going on, and then it like all came back down again, and now a bunch of our characters are kind of going on a quest, and it's a somewhat interesting quest, and a lot of the characters are going through like different emotional journeys while we're on this quest. But I kind of miss the intensity that we got there for a bit, and I'm waiting and hoping for us to get back to that. Although I also don't know, like I can't even see the end of the book now at this point, getting to the emotional levels that the end of the fifth part did. I don't know that it could. Ooh, unless. I don't think it would do that. Anyway, I actually don't know now when I'm going to get to finish that. I think today I'm going to try and finish this off, even though I've still got another 150, 200 pages to go. 150 pages to go, maybe. I think that's maybe doable, maybe not, maybe delusional. But there's no way I could finish up Heir of Novron today, because today is the last day of the month, so if I want to finish things off for the month, I should finish them off by today. But also, I've been thinking lately of going on less runs with the idea of giving myself a bit more recovery time and time to do like other kinds of exercise. But what that would mean is less audiobook time, which I'm less excited about. And like, I think I've got about 6 hours left of actual listening time for this audiobook. So like if I'm not going on another run for a couple of days, when am I going to finish this? I'm wondering if I can use it as motivation to like do more housework, because I do also listen to audiobooks while I do housework sometimes. I don't know. I think we'll have to see whether if I go for less runs, if I end up getting much more behind on my audiobook listening. I don't want to. I guess we'll see.
Pick it up from the top, hit restart. So far it's been so hard to live, but lately something in me changed. Let it go, let it be. Don't fight your way back in.
So I have finished The Broken Kingdoms, and I actually think the ending of this was the strongest. Maybe it's just that it took me a while to get into it, but I really like how it all kind of came together at the end. I maybe like some of the ideas in it, but I feel like I would need to reflect on them a little bit more. But it's definitely a really interesting take of having humans interacting with gods and how that might really work, and like the impact on both gods and humans when the gods are at war. Like, I think especially I liked the emotions of the gods in this, but there was some interesting fallout. I am actually now much more excited for the third book in the series, although I've heard that it's the weakest in the series. I haven't actually read. Now that I've finished this, I should be able to read this to see what this is about, right? And not spoil myself. So I just think this is pretty thick compared to the other books in the series. Okay, It looks like the third book will be following all new characters again. I'm suspecting from the way it's written that it's going to be like another romance between like a human and a god, which we've kind of gotten in every book in the series. And because I'm not a romance girly, that part is never my favorite. Also, I think the romantic interest in this one is going to be a character that I'm not particularly fond of from the previous two books. So I guess we'll see how it goes when I get to this. I do have this on my April TBR, so I'll be reading it soon, in the next month. So that's that one. Then as well, we have Heir of Novron. I have listened to a little bit more of this. I think now I've got 4.5 hours left of listening time, which means I must have done an hour and a half of housework this morning while I listened to this. And part of me wants to like finish this off before I finish this vlog off, but I mean, I'm not doing another 4.5 hours of housework, and I'm probably not going for a run till tomorrow, and I kind of want to start reading A Declaration of the Rights of Magicians, which I really want to start a new vlog for that. So I guess I will finish this off in the next vlog. I don't honestly know that I can say much about this anyway because of it being so far through the series. And I also don't know the stuff that happened while I was reading it this morning. None of it really had me feeling any kind of special way. I'm just continuing to enjoy the series and waiting for like shit to really start going down in terms of the big drama that I think needs to happen by the end of this book. I'm beginning to doubt that everything's going to be wrapped up in this book. But my understanding was that all the other series in this world come before this series in chronological order. So I really need everything to be wrapped up in this book. I guess we'll see when I get to it. I was going to say maybe I'll finish it tomorrow on my run, but I probably still won't even finish it then because it's not like I'm going for a 4.5 hour run. Anyway, I do feel like this vlog was quite short and I didn't really do that much other than, oh, not that one, this one. Read some stuff. I mean, that's the point of a reading vlog, I guess. And I have really designed my life to be not that interesting and more relaxing. So that is what it is. Anyway, let me know if you've read either of these, because I would love to chat with you about them down in the comments, or let me know what you've been reading lately. Do subscribe if you'd like to see more of my bookish videos. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you are doing well, and I will see you next time.